Hello everyone, it's nice to be here with you again. This is our book for this month. It is called When Marian Sang. It's about Marian Anderson. It's written by Pam Munoz-Ryan. The illustrator is Brian Selznick and the publisher is Scholastic Press. And this is When Marian Sang. No one was surprised that Marian loved to sing. After all, she listened to Father singing in the morning as he dressed. Mother often hummed while she worked in the kitchen. Sometimes Marian and her little sisters, Ethel May and Elise, sang songs all afternoon. However, her voice was distinct, strong and velvety, and able to climb more than 24 notes. Everyone wanted to hear Marian sing. Alexander Robinson, the choir director at Union Baptist Church in South Philadelphia, wanted to hear Marian sing, even though she was not quite 8 years old and sometimes sang too loud. He asked her to perform a duet with her friend Viola Johnson. As Viola sang the high part and Marian sang the low, their harmony blended like a silk braid. Church folk started whispering and followed with out-and-out talking about Marian's remarkable gift. Neighboring churches heard the news and invited Marian to perform. One advertisement said, "Come and hear the baby contralto, 10 years old." And people came. When Marian sang, it was often with her eyes closed, as if finding the music within. Audiences heard not only words, but feelings too. Spirited worship, tender affection, and nothing short of joy. She was chosen for the celebrated People's Chorus, 100 voices from all the black church choirs in Philadelphia. She was one of the youngest members and had to stand on a chair so those in the back could see the pride of South Philadelphia. Her father was proud too, but protective. He didn't want anyone taking advantage of his child. Father's love made Marian feel important. When he died after an injury at the reading terminal where he sold ice, tragedy filled Marian's heart and sometimes her songs. Mother was happy for Marian's success, but reminded her that no matter what she studied, to take a little extra time and do it well. Marian didn't need extra encouragement when it came to singing. She practiced her part of each song and often learned all the other parts too. For her, music was serious business, and more than anything, she hoped to someday go to music school. Church members promised tuition for our Marian if she was accepted. Since Father's death, Marian worked at odd jobs and sang in concert programs in order to help support her family. It wasn't until 1915, when Marian was 18, that she finally went to music school and patiently waited in line for an application. But the girl behind the counter helped everyone except Marian. Was she invisible? Finally, the girl said, "We don't take colored." Her voice sounded like a steel door clanking shut. Marian knew about Prejudice. She had seen the trolley driver drive past her family as they stood at the corner. She knew that her people were always the last to be helped in a store, but she could not understand how anyone who was surrounded by the spirit and beauty of music could be so narrow-minded. She felt sick in her stomach and in her heart. Didn't they know that her skin was different, but her feelings were the same? Couldn't she be a professional singer if she was Negro? With unwavering faith, Mother told her that there would be another way to accomplish what would have been done at that school. Marian believed her mother. She took voice lessons in her own neighborhood, continued with the choirs, and sometimes performed at Negro churches and colleges. When Marian saw a Metropolitan Opera performance of the tragic opera Madame Butterfly, Thoughts of a formal music education again came to mind. How wonderful it would be to sing on a grand stage, act out a dramatic role, and wear beautiful costumes. The passionate music inspired her, and she was determined to study. But opera was simply the sun and the moon, a dream that seemed too far away to reach. As a young woman in her 20s, Marian was invited to many states to sing. Sometimes she had traveled with her accompanist by train, where they were seated in the dirty and crowded Jim Crow car reserved for Negroes. When she arrived at her destination, she often sang the same program twice to separate audiences, one white and one black, or to segregated groups, whites in the best seats and blacks in the balcony. Many times she was welcomed enthusiastically by her audiences, and then could not get a hotel room because she was Negro. No matter what humiliation she endured, Marian sang her heart with dignity. Her voice left audiences weeping or in hushed awe as they strained to hold on to the memory of every opulent tune. Marian still wanted to advance her singing with master teachers. With the help of friends, she was granted an audition with the fierce yet famous Giuseppe Boghetti. When she arrived at his studio, Mr. Boghetti announced that he didn't have time or room for new students. Too afraid to even look at him, Marian took a deep breath and slowly, with great emotion, she sang. When she was finished, Marian finally lifted her eyes. "I will make room for you right away," Mr. Boghetti said firmly, "and I will need only 2 years with you. After that, you will be able to go anywhere and sing for anybody." Again, Marian's devoted church community raised the money for her lessons. Marian worked hard with Mr. Boghetti, and sometimes for practice she sang scenes from Italian operas with him. Her recitals now included German songs too, but other languages troubled her. She didn't want simply to sing beautiful words like Dunkel wie dunkel in Wald und in Feld. She wanted to know that the words meant dark, how dark in the woods and the fields. Other Negro singers had gone overseas to develop their voices and learn foreign languages. Why not her? After all, Europe was different. There she would be able to sing to mixed audiences and travel without restrictions put on her people in America. Marian needed to grow, and Mother agreed. A bundle of trepidation and excitement, Marian boarded the Ile-de-France in October 1927. She had never been so far from her family. She knew her sisters would take good care of Mother, but she still already felt twinges of homesickness. Marian studied and was eventually invited to perform in concert halls in Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. The enthusiasm for her singing was so overwhelming that one newspaper in Sweden called it Marian Fever. Audiences applauded in London, cheered in Paris, and pounded on the stage for encores in Russia. In Austria, the world-famous conductor Arturo Toscanini announced that what he had heard, one was privileged to hear only once in 100 years. Marian finally felt that she had achieved some success. She even asked Mother if there was anything she wanted that would make her happy, because now Marian could afford to buy it for her. Mother said that all she wanted was for God to hold Marian in the highest of his hands. It seemed like she was already there. Mr. Boghetti had been right. She could go anywhere and sing for anyone. Until I turned it too soon. Until she came home to the United States. In 1931, Howard University in Washington, D.C. booked a concert with Marian Anderson and began looking for an auditorium big enough to hold the audience she attracted. They decided that the 4,000-seat Constitution Hall would be perfect. But the manager of the hall said it wasn't available and no other dates were offered because of their white performers only policy. Marian's agent, Saul Hurok, wrote to the hall manager pointing out that Marian Anderson was one of the greatest living singers of our time. but it did no good. Enraged fans wrote letters to the newspapers. In protest, Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady of the United States, resigned from the organization that sponsored Constitution Hall. Howard University then tried to reserve a large high school auditorium from an all-white school. Again, they were denied. Now teachers were angry and marched in support of Marian in front of the Board of Education. Washington, D.C. was a boiling pot about to spill over. Wasn't there some place in her own country's capital where Marian Anderson's voice could be heard? Committees formed and held meetings. Finally, with President Roosevelt's approval, the Department of the Interior of the United States government invited Marian to sing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on Easter Sunday. Her country was offering her a momentous invitation, but she had concerns. Would people protest? Was it dangerous? Would anyone come? Examining her heart, Marian realized that although she was a singer first and foremost, she also had become a symbol to her people, and she wanted to make it easier for those who would follow her. She said yes. Standing in the shadow of the statue of Lincoln, waiting to be called out, she read the engraved words, "This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom." Marian looked out on a river of 75,000 people. Her heart beat wildly. Would she be able to utter one note? She took a deep breath and felt the power of her audience's goodwill surge toward her. Marian's sisters were there, and Mother too. Marian stood straight and tall. Then she closed her eyes and sang, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty." A roaring cheer followed every song. At the end of the program, the people pleaded for more. When she began her thought-provoking encore, "Oh, nobody knows the trouble I see," silence settled on the multitudes. For almost 16 years after the Lincoln Memorial performance, Marian sang for kings and queens, presidents and prime ministers, famous composers and conductors. She received medals, awards, and honorary degrees for her magnificent voice. But there was still one place Marian had not sung. When she was finally invited, a dream came true. Marian wondered how people would react. No Negro singer had ever done such a thing. She would be the first, but she didn't need to worry. After she signed the contract, someone said, "Welcome home." On opening night, excitement charged the air. As Marian waited in the wings, the orchestra began. Her stomach fluttered. She walked onto the grand stage, trembling. She straightened her costume and waited for the pounding music she knew to be her cue. Tonight was her debut with the Metropolitan Opera. At long last, she had reached the sun and the moon. The curtains parted, and Marian sang. All right, let's get to our craft. So our craft today is a collage I made of all my favorite singers. I wasn't lucky enough to have been able to see Marian Anderson in person, but some of these people I have actually had the privilege of seeing in concert, and because nowadays we can listen to music whenever we want, I get to hear them whenever I want. So I wanted to make a collage of some of my favorite singers, and you can do the same. So here's what you need. I just found a picture on the internet of a musical note, and I printed it off and I cut it out, and then I traced it onto black construction paper, and then I cut it out. Now you can use any color you want. You don't have to use black. I just liked black, so I did. And then I pasted it with glue stick onto a light blue piece of paper, and again, you can use any color you want. I would just make sure you did use two colors that had a good contrast so you could see your musical note. So you just paste that on there. So you'll need some scissors too to cut things out with. So glue, scissors, a musical note, and two pieces of contrasting colored construction paper. And then this is what, now all the pictures I printed out from the internet. I looked them up on the internet and then I printed them out from there. So if you don't have that capability, if you don't have a printer or you don't have the internet, you could have pieces of construction paper and just write the names of your favorite singers on there and paste it around. But these were mine, so I'll just point them out to you. You probably don't know any of them. Well, maybe you do. I shouldn't say that. You might know them very well. This is Carole King. I still like her. I liked her very much when I was a teenager. These are the Monkees. They were a musical group from the 1960s that I liked when I was a little bitty kid. This is Bruce Springsteen. They call him the boss. He's a guitarist and a very good songwriter too. He has a very great band called the E Street Band. This is Linda Ronstadt. I love her music. I love her songs. She started out as like a rock and roll singer, and she then went to Mexican folk music because her mother is Mexican, and she did a lot of Mexican folk music. It was really great. This is Ann and Nancy Wilson. They are sisters. They are a group called Heart. I like them very much. They don't play much anymore, but I liked them when I was in college. This is Taylor Swift. I like her very much now. She's one of my favorite singers. She's a great songwriter too. This is Cyndi Lauper. She's probably from the 80s and 90s, but I really like her. This is Dave Grohl. He used to be with a group called Nirvana, and now he's with a group called the Foo Fighters. I like his music very much. This is Whitney Houston. She has passed away, but she has one of the most beautiful voices I ever heard. And this is Jonathan Groff. He's a really great singer, and he played King George III in Hamilton, the musical, which I think Disney made into a movie, so maybe you'll get to see it. I hope I get to see. I've never gotten to see it. I hear the music, but I've never gotten to actually see the musical. I would love to see it, so maybe I'll see it on Disney someday. Anyway, enjoy, have fun, think about all your favorite singers, and think about the people who came before them. And even if you don't get to do this, put in the comments who some of your favorite singers are. And if you do get to make a collage, take a picture of it and put that in the comments too. I'd like to see who your favorite singers are. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.